If you already have a very firm grasp on the vocabulary that's used in BBC reports, international reporting, well, then it's fine for you to click off right now, because then you definitely don't need this video. But if you want to master the specific professional language used by native speakers, by English journalists to describe critical events, the kind of vocabulary that elevates your English from stuck in the classroom with a dusty textbook to commanding, well, then I suggest that you stay with me until the end. Now, today we are analyzing a breaking news report from Johannesburg, South Africa. South Africa is my home country. I am a native English speaker from South Africa. That's probably the reason that this headline grabbed my attention. Now, we're not just going to read the news. That's probably what you do. We are going to dissect 5 essential terms that you need to understand, you need to own, and you need to go out into the world today and you need to use them. So let's dive into the story. There's a manhunt underway in South Africa. All right, so I'm going to put up the article on the side and you can follow along. At least 12 people have been killed in a mass shooting in an area of Johannesburg, police in South Africa say. At least 12 people have been killed in a mass shooting. So first we have mass shooting. And in any kind of war zone or country with high crime, you'll hear this phrase constantly in global news. Now, mass shooting describes a violent incident where a large number of people are targeted. Mass shooting, mass, large number of people shooting. They were targeted, they were killed in a single event, they were shot at. Now, it's not just a fight. It's not a fight between two people. It's a very specific, tragic category of crime, mass shooting, mass killing. Let's move on to another part of the article. They say another 9 people were injured in the attack at an informal settlement in Cleveland late on Tuesday, and a manhunt for suspects is underway. Okay, a manhunt for suspects is underway. Now, I'm not covering the phrase underway, but what do you think it means? Join me in the conversation. But I am going to cover 2 phrases from that sentence. All right, the first one is informal settlement. I'm not sure if you have this in your country, but this is quite prevalent in South Africa. So what is an informal settlement? Well, when I use the phrase informal settlement, it's a very precise professional way to describe an area where residents have built homes on land that they don't legally own. They don't own the land, but they just put up these, I wouldn't even call them homes, okay, because they are not proper structures. The informal settlement often lacks infrastructure, so you won't actually have water or electricity. Now, you may have heard another word for them, okay, the very informal word, slums, slums. But I'm going to say to you, don't call them slums when you are using formal English. Avoid calling them slums, okay, informal English in a formal environment. Instead, use informal settlement. That's the standard term. So did you notice something? Your textbook may have just taught you slums and informal settlement, but your textbook did not teach you which word to use when. Got it? All right, fantastic. And by the way, do you have slums? Because we're chatting here, it's kind of informal, right? Do you have slums in your country? Or if you are a more formal type of person, Do you have informal settlements in your country? Join the conversation. Let me know in the comments. And then we move on to manhunt. 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 They are hunting a man, right? It's a very high stakes word. It doesn't just mean the police are looking for someone, one or two policemen are out there looking for someone. No, no, no. A manhunt implies a large scale, coordinated, and urgent search for criminals. Criminals who are on the run. Oh, there's another lovely phrase. I'm going to leave these two with you to decode yourself. Underway, the manhunt is underway, and these criminals, they are on the run. What do you think on the run means? I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments. Also, check out our community posts. Maybe I'll break it down there for you guys. All right. Now, I think this is our last one for today, is it? Let's just check this out. Emergency medical services were also deployed to treat the injured. So they didn't just send ambulances, the emergency medical services were deployed. Deployed. Listen to that verb, deployed. Yes? Now, most people would say the police were sent or the ambulances were sent. Okay, but sent is kind of lazy, right? And if you want to be a journalist or you want to use advanced English, how about saying deployed? Now, deployed is what you use when a force, a team, resources are strategically moved into position to perform a specific task. Can you get that vibe, that feeling of there's a team, right? There are resources, there's a strategy, everything is moving into position, and they have a task, they have an agenda. Perfect. So use deployed when you want to sound like you are describing a professional operation. Okay, so emergency services were deployed. The teams were sent. It was organized. It was structured. Deployed. We have one more for you today. The police statement said that the motive for the attack is currently unknown and forms part of the ongoing investigation. Motive, that's the last one I have for you today. The motive? Yeah, you guessed it. It's the why. Why did this happen? Why did they do it? Now, in police reports, in journalism, the motive is the reason behind a crime. So, some examples of motives: revenge, greed, ideology, when people believe in different things. So, a motive is the driving force behind the act, the why. Why did they do it? What was the motive? So what do you have today? If you stayed here until the end, fantastic, because I think you have just mastered some amazing vocabulary. We started with the mass shooting at the informal settlement. There was a manhunt. Emergency services were deployed, and we don't know what the motive is yet. I also said that investigations were underway and the criminals were on the run. You know what would be a really great exercise is if you took those words and you created a little synopsis or a little summary of what this article was all about. I just did it. I threw all 5 words into one sentence. I think you could do it in 2 or 3. Now, that's exactly what I have to drill down on here. You have the vocabulary, you understood the definitions, but the definitions, knowing the definitions isn't enough. If you only know the definitions, then you are regressing. You are going back to the school method, which didn't work, right? That's what you did at school. They gave you words, told you the definitions, you memorized it, and that's why, as an adult, you are still stuck. So you have these words. You understand the definitions. I've explained them to you. You have some context. You have a lovely article. Well, not a lovely article, a well-written article about a not so lovely incident. Now you need to take those words and weave it into a conversation. You have to be able to talk about these global complex events without freezing up. Now, you're probably thinking, okay, I don't have anyone to talk to. Talk to me in the comments. So answer this in the comments. I want to see if you've actually mastered these phrases. So let's imagine you are a journalist, right? And you're reporting on an emergency in your own city. How would you use these 5 words to describe the situation? Now, don't repeat the definitions. That's not what I want. I want you to give me sentences that put the words into actions. Okay. Use them in a way that shows you understand what they mean, but also the gravitas. Okay, the weight that they carry. I'm going to read all the comments. And I'm curious, can you handle this level of English? You can do the pretend English and you can stay the little popcorn kernel forever, or you can put yourself under some pressure, okay? Seal the pot. I've created the environment. I've given you something to work with today. And let's see if you can pop that corn. 5 words. You know, I think it's time that you stop acting like a student and you start acting like a speaker. Start observing the world. There were 5 phrases plus another 2 that I want you to investigate, decode on your own. And I want to read your journalistic report. Also, check out our community posts. I'll put more there. If you are not already subscribed to my channel, would you like to? Also, you could hit like and subscribe and the notification bell because I upload regularly. I would have to say that if you've watched this video until the end, you have learned more in this video than in a 2-hour session. And I've taught them. I've got 15 years of international experience. And very often students leave a 2 or 3-hour session without having this much information, input, and practice. So take advantage of this opportunity. I'm Nas, and thanks for joining me. I will see you, in the next one. If there are any particular news reports you would like me to decode, why don't you put that into the comments as well? Just pop a link in there. I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.